Who's that?
And
I've never heard of that person.
the second seed from Group Mixmaster Moose SR. So this should be a pretty good race. 3-0 versus 1-0 first seed.
Yeah,
So
this will be an excellent race. I'm looking forward to some early sync going on right here. Maybe even late sync as well. But they are off. Runners hopping through prologue. The hardest level in the game because you can't dash.
I think this is where I reset the most, to be honest. Take a quick second here during prologue to explain Madeline's abilities real quick. Madeline can jump, as you're seeing here. She can grab the wall and climb up, and she can also dash, as the bird is teaching her right here at the end. She gets one dash in the air, and combining dashes and jumps is pretty much the basis of the entire speedrun. So we're gonna see them go 0 to 100 real quick in here in chapter 1.
Yep.
They're going to start moving a lot faster than they were in the prologue now that they have their dash.
Yep, exactly. And Ben mentioned dashing and jumping as the two main mechanics, and yeah, you can see right away Moose and Scrublord utilizing the gain of momentum via a dash and the maintaining thereof from jumping. There are a couple of different techniques you can use called hyperdashing, which is basically doing that, dashing and jumping while crouching. And there's dash canceling, which is the same thing except not crouching. You don't get as much distance, but you get more height. There's vertical hypering, or wall bouncing, as we like to call it. You'll see that being done as well in at least some of these screens in the city, I'm sure. Where you dash vertically up against the wall and then jump off of it, and you gain a lot of vertical height that way.
Chapter 1 is pretty short, pretty sweet. It introduces a lot of the core mechanics of the game. You might have seen the players dash into a greenish jewel and be able to dash again in the air. There's also these springs and spikes, where we will be seeing a lot of spikes throughout the course of this run. But Chapter 1 spikes are my favorite because they're nice and tidy, very visible, very clear.
I think this is the only part of the game where spikes actually look like that as well, besides for the B-sides. I believe 2B has some spikes like that on top of Dream Blocks, but I think other than that, that's the only part where the spikes actually look like that.
I think the beginning of Mirror Temple, maybe, before they transform, if I remember.
Maybe.
But, I'm trying to think of like that first screen where you skip with the hyper. But
anyway, we're here in Chapter 2 now, and you'll see Moose SR just activated the Dream Blocks, which you can dash through. You dash in one direction, you come out the other. It's pretty simple. But you maintain dash momentum and speed through the Dream Blocks, which is pretty cool. It's pretty neat, satisfying mechanic. And we're about to meet Battleline here as well.
Dream Blocks are one of the first mechanics in the game where players actually realize that when you come out the other side, you still have your dash. Most of the mechanics in this game refresh your dash when you use them, but Dream Blocks is the first one that really brings it to the player's attention.
Yep. So Battleline actually follows you around, basically mimics your movements exactly. Well, maybe not exactly, but about 3 seconds behind you. So as long as the runners keep up their velocity throughout and don't stop for 3 seconds, I can't foresee either of these runners stopping for 3 seconds at any point. They shouldn't have a problem with Battleline at all. I say that as Moose SR actually gets caught in the corner and dies to Battleline, so I apologize for that. It's commentator's curse.
Yeah, he had a weird jump in place instead of a hyper. I don't know if he just missed the dash or something on his controller, but that was weird. Just put him in an awkward situation.
Yeah, it was strange.
That last room there, the battle line chase actually has 5 battle lines chasing you. It starts with 1 and then goes up to 3 and then goes up to 5. So it can get a little hectic if you're not too careful with your movement.
You could see Scrublord, who was initially behind after Chapter 1, actually taking a fairly significant lead here through Chapter 2, the end of Chapter 2, the Awake section here. Not going for the TAS Awake strats. I'm disappointed, frankly, but whatever. It's fine.
a respectable 151 chapter 2.
Yeah.
That's really
151
really
is
good.
very, very good. I was kidding about the Tassowake stress, by the way. Nobody ever does that or is able to do that. But either way,
That death that happened to Moose is actually a pretty good example of the more costly types of deaths in Celeste. Celeste respawns you automatically at the start of the screen that you die on. So generally, if you die like very quick into the screen or in a short screen, like overall short screen, like it's not too punishing. But that battle line screen happens to be like one of the longer screens in Chapter 2.
yeah.
And then because it has a lock switch, which we didn't really talk about, but you have to press the switch to open the door. Because it has one of those, you also have to wait for the animation of that on top of doing the room a second time. So an unfortunate death for Moose for sure.
So here we have Chapter 3. Very cycle-based chapter. You see these little things that look like I don't know, dust bunnies, pieces of meat or something. They cycle back and forth, and it's your job to avoid them, or else you die. And yeah, Chapter 3 is full of those guys. As such, Chapter 3 is one of the more technical chapters. Honestly, some of these cycles can be pretty hard to beat or get the optimal cycle on. So it'll be interesting to see the strats these guys try to pull off as Resort gets to its meteor part. Scrublord currently navigating his way through the huge mess room, which is can be pretty annoying for runners to navigate sometimes, just because of its nooks and crannies you got to make your way around.
Yeah, for sure. And Huge Mess is the first and I believe only checkpoint of the game that can be completed in various different sequences. There's 3 split paths, and you can go either south, north, or west, and each path removes some of the debris that's in the main lobby here of the Huge Mess. And you can see now as Scrublord enters it a second time, there's a lot less stuff around. The goal is to get to that key in the center. The route the players are going to be doing is considered the fastest route for the speedrun. It basically puts you the closest to Shiro after every section, so minimizes travel time in the main lobby room, which is why we do it this way.
Scrublord getting a very nice fast cycle on that. What is it, the 3rd or 4th room of that second branch there? I love that where you wall bounce up the right side instead of the left. And you can see the difference. Moose not quite getting that.
Yeah,
so wall bounce does the left side. It's not that much of a time save, but it really adds up as Resort goes on for sure.
Yeah, Celeste being a screen-based game allows speedrunners to tackle it in a way where they are able to practice individual screens or individual segments until they can improve that whole chapter overall, and it really shows. Once you start going for these type of cycle skips and stuff, the players are able to really just start gaining so much time on their whole PVs and stuff, and they really see a difference. So it's a really rewarding game in that aspect that really allows you to practice it, grind it, and then still see those results.
Yeah, for sure. Scrublord actually on a really good Chapter 3 pace right now. I think he entered the elevator shaft at 306, which is extremely good. .306 by the individual level timer. In case anybody's confused about that. Beats the cycle there really nice, and he's going to hyper across here, not quite getting that. But that's okay. That's a really quick death. And self-destructing with the key to get back to the beginning of the room easier.
Keys permanently attached to Madeline when she picks them up, so you're able to kill yourself and retry to reappear at the start of the level, at the start of the screen, I'm sorry. And that allows you to save some backtracking time there. So here we have the Oshiro section. It's the last section of Chapter 3. Basically, for story reasons, Oshiro has been made very angry by Battleline, and now he wants to punish you essentially for not wanting to stay at the hotel. So he's chasing you around. He locks onto your y-axis, and charges at you. It's very predictable. You can see the lightning bolt. If you step on Oshiro, you also get your dash back. So it's you can jump on him in like a Super Mario style way to defeat him also, but he does come back right away. So players generally don't bother with that. He also slows down the game when he gets close to you. So players want to avoid being around them as much as possible. And very, very clean Chapter 3 from Scrublord there.
Really good. Yep, that's extremely good. 440, I can't quite read the
signals.
448? Yep. But yeah, moral of the story is if you come across a strange hotel owner, do not tell them that their hotel is a dump. Because this might happen.
Especially if they're floating. Like, I feel like
I feel like it's not a good idea ever. Yeah, like, I mean, especially if they're like, a spirit. Okay, so Scrublord is coming on his specialty right now, Chapter 4, and you'll see some pretty advanced strats here. I believe he either has the IL record or is tied for Bye-Bye with it at a 246. 246 Golden Ridge. That's a lot harder than it looks right there to get that right coin first.
Yeah, if you're too high, you jump into the top spike. If you're too low, you get clipped by the bottom spike. So you have to be very specific with where you dash there. Chapter 4 introduces a couple of mechanics. The bubbles that you see on Moose's screen here, and then the clouds that you see there as well. Basically, these are all just different mechanics that push Madeline throughout the screen, all while replenishing her dash. These dash blocks are the more tedious mechanic of Chapter 4. You have to activate them by either grabbing them or landing on them, and then generally wait for them to cross the room so that you can finish across the gap. There are a few skips available with those blocks, but they're very difficult and very precise. So I understand that the runners won't go for those in like a race setting.
Yeah, definitely not. Only Revo.
Well, he's a madman.
But
so
Revo's crazy, so.
Both players having pretty solid Chapter 4s so far. It's crazy that Scrublord has such a great Chapter 4 time, because he doesn't even like really use any of the newer strats that have been found for Chapter 4.
Yeah.
So for his Chapter 4 to be so strong, it's testament to how well he knows the screens and like how well his just basic fundamentals of the game are.
Yeah, his movement is really, really clean.
So here we enter Cliff Face, which has the strongest wind mechanic of the level. Basically, the level it introduces the wind early on, and then it just gets stronger and stronger as you go through the levels. And it also introduces this snowball. So on top of essentially not being able to walk forward with Madeline, you have to also avoid these snowballs that are kind of like a Shiro, but they come from the other side, so they're much harder to avoid.
Very nice under strat there for Scrublord.
That corner jump was sick. Oh, that's so easy. I was trying to do the ultra there on that screen, and I couldn't get it consistently, but I might just do that.
And the 249 from Scrublord.
So good.
Anything sub 250 is ridiculous, by the way. Like, anything sub 3 is pretty good. Anything sub 250 is just
I think even in like among the top runners, there's only like 3 or 4 of the top 10 that even have like sub 250s.
Yeah.
Like, it just period. Like, so to get it in a race setting is insane. And Moose has been having a really good Chapter 4 too. It's not like he's slouching. It's just like Scrublord is just like beasting so hard that it's like he's gaining a lead even when Moose is playing really well.
Interesting bunny hop strat there from Scrublord, by the way, to skip the red bubble on the left side. I've actually never seen that, to be honest with you. I've only seen either a wave dash or reverse hyper, or even just waiting to hyper there, but I've never seen a bunny hop. I didn't even know that's possible.
Nice, gets that nice depth skip there. Mirror Temple is a pretty straightforward level early on. it has some branching paths that lead to some keys and some stuff. But overall, if you know where to look, it minimizes the like searching time a lot compared to the casual playthrough. He's gonna be finished up here with the very first half of it in just a second. Yeah, 108 entering that bubble is really good.
A lot of players don't realize about Chapter 5, getting back to the straightforward part. You literally just go right in Mirror Temple. Like, I mean, a lot of players, like, besides for this one deviation where you go up to get this key, other than that, you literally just go right.
Oh, Moose was trying to get the cycle skip there. And,
yeah, that's really hard to do.
Dashed straight. But yeah, he was also beasting on that first section of Mirror Temple there. So we briefly saw the introduction to the Seeker mechanic there on Scrublord's screen. Basically, Seekers are an enemy that's going to be coming up here in this unraveling section of Mirror Temple, and whenever they see Madeline, they lock onto her and then dash at her. You can use them to break obstacles or trigger lock switches, and we're going to see Scrublord doing a little bit of that here. Messes up a dash on his platform, so unfortunately takes a death. Oh, Moose getting a little like finger tied there in what he wanted to do. Like he had an idea, but just executed it in the wrong order, and unfortunately took a bad death there.
Unraveling the section that Scrublord is in right now is a section that can really make or break your Mirror Temple, especially the last screen here. This is the second to last screen right here, but the last screen here can absolutely just make or break your Mirror Temple. Requires really clean movement to get these coins, and then near the end you'll see he's being really careful here, and rightfully so. But it gets it done, and nicely done there.
It's the only part of the level where you have to cross the Seeker more than once, so you kind of have to like understand like Seeker movement and what's going to trigger his charge and where he's going to be depending on how you've been moving through the screen. So it can be one of the more intensive screens in Mirror Temple for sure.
Scrublord there just did a skip, which casually saves about 2 minutes. Over casually doing it. I mean, getting the keys and basically going to the right side and doing a bunch of stuff. Instead, we just do a reverse jump dash, reverse extended jump dash actually, to bypass everything on the right side there and cross that pit.
Yeah, that's probably like the biggest section of Mirror Temple, and we see absolutely none of it. Yeah, so we have the Theo section here. Theo is one of our friends that we meet earlier on, but we never see him in the speedrun because we skip all the cutscenes.
That was sick. That was a sick boost off the. Sorry to interrupt you. That was a sick boost off the Seeker there. That was sweet.
Yeah. I like any strat that kills Seekers. So. Wow, I don't know if that was intentional or not. But wow.
I don't know. I don't know either. But if it was.
So what I was gonna say is that unfortunately, while carrying the Theo Crystal, Madeline can't dash, but picking up Theo does preserve a little bit of Madeline's momentum. So you see, he's just gonna keep throwing Theo and catching him over and over, so that he's moving forward with the dash momentum while carrying Theo.
Yeah, a lot of players might consider this part pretty annoying, but it's definitely one of the more technical parts of the speedrun for sure. Just because there are a lot of inputs involved in throwing and catching Theo, preserving momentum, and gaining momentum as well. Scrublord finishing Mirror Temple with a total IGT of 1635, which is very, very good.
We're gonna have Moose entering the Theo section here in just a moment. Scrublord not having the cleanest of ends at Chapter 5, so you know, Moose had a unfortunate start, so if he can get a clean Theo section here, he can make up a lot of that time.
See if Scrublord goes for a lake skip here in Chapter 6. There's a really tight wall bounce you can do at the start here. Yep, he's going for it. And there it is. Perfect.
Nice.
So
Scrublord was actually doing like a super hard version of it there. Like by dashing at the top of the water there, he gives himself like very little time to react to his own dash, like so that he can press jump while still against that left wall there. So pretty impressive for him to go for it that way and get it.
So chapter 6 is pretty long and pretty technical at parts. It's not that bad, but it can definitely bite you, for sure. A lot of really small time-saving strats that can be pretty difficult to execute. So it's basically like
That's a very
there's
good way of explaining it.
yeah, there's not much honestly separating. Like for instance, for top runners, there's not much separating a sub 6 chapter 6 and like a 610 or even a 620. It's just like continuously doing the more advanced strats that only save a little bit of time. It's really the best way I can put it, honestly, for
Chapter 6 is a giant collection of little pain in the behinds.
Yep, exactly.
Basically. For like skip, but Scrublord missed it like 2 or 3 times, so it's not even going to gain that much time on him for doing it, if any.
All right, Scrublord, excuse me, going down into the ravine part here. So there are a couple of dev-intended shortcuts that I'm guessing Scrublord is going to utilize here. There are setups for the first two, but this one can be a bit tricky, and it gets it no problem.
Very nice. That's going to be a little troublesome if you do wind up dying on that last ravine there, because the checkpoint that's midway through that screen, you actually don't touch it when you take the shortcuts. So it's you lose like double the time for messing up with that if you take the shortcuts there.
And watch this speed coming up on Scrublord's side. Very nice. So we call that the battle line boost, I guess. I don't know if there's actually an official name for that, but it's basically a hyper dash into a bunny hop off of the Kevin block. By the way, those are called Kevin blocks, or crush blocks, but we call them Kevin blocks because Kevin made the sound for them. Kevin Regaming from Power Up Audio. Anyway, so we gain a lot of momentum from hypering and then bunny hopping there. And you can actually use that momentum to get all the way to battle line and hit her like pretty much immediately, like a truck.
Yeah, something that I usually explain in prologue, but it slipped my mind this time around, was that whenever Madeline accelerates, she actually preserves whatever momentum she had before then. So jumping in this game actually accelerates Madeline in a very slight manner, and because of that, you're able to do hyper dashes and then bunny hop and actually like move just even a slightly bit faster because you preserve the momentum from the hyper dash and then accelerate a little bit with the bunny hop. So that's able to give you some extra distance on a regular height jump because you're not locked into the hyper height. And because in that situation, you know, the Kevin block is also moving you forward. It's just all the acceleration gets added together, basically.
So battle line is a quote-unquote fight that takes about 2.5 minutes or so.
Is this not how you fight people, running your face into them? I feel like that's how I would fight people.
If I were to fight people, like IRL, this is probably how I would do it.
Like, just take step back like 4 meters and then just like charge at them and just run your face into them.
Madeline learned from the TGH school of fighting.
And I said meters, but I meant feet. I don't know why I said meters. 4 meters is a really long distance, and that's not what Madeline is dashing. Oh, nice save there from Scrublord. Moose entering his battle line fight now.
Yeah, these screens can get pretty tricky once the music starts glitching in the battle line section of Chapter 6.
Scrublord's taken 2 unfortunate deaths here in the battle line fight, so you know there's an opportunity here for Moose to gain some time back if he can have a really good battle line fight. Scrublord entering the last screen here.
Yeah, that last screen there is probably one of the most dynamic screens of the battle line section. There are some cycle skips you can perform on that screen, but they are very difficult to execute. For the most part, I believe Scrublord played that pretty safe.
Scrublord might be having a little bit of nerves or something here. I don't know if he's on PB pace or something. But I'm missing a lot of wall, but
I think he
wall
probably
bounces on the.
He probably is. I mean, if he can have a good summit, he's on pace for a 32 right now. So we'll see if he can pull together. I'm about to check his PB. Actually, I don't remember what his
It's
PB
really
is.
high, 32.57 on SRC.
Yeah, so if you can get pretty much a sub 10 summit, then this is likely a PB for Scrublord.
And Moose has a high 34, so their PBs are about 2 minutes apart. But anything can happen in Summit. Like honestly, like this
You know as well as I do.
This is the pain of a lot of people's existence sometimes.
Yeah.
When they're trying to PB.
Summit is very long. You mentioned me saying sub 10 summit. That is not an exaggeration. Summit is extremely long, by far the longest chapter in the game, and as such, it is the most important chapter in the game. So basically, each part of Summit represents, or basically is, parts of the game that you've been through to begin with. So for instance, like that was the quote-unquote prologue section. Here's the city section, 500 meters. And each section has a lot of the qualities that each of the original levels had as well. And you'll notice that.
Something that we didn't bring up but should have be quite obvious by this point if you've been watching Scrublord is that at the end of Chapter 6, Madeline actually leveled up with Battle Line and is actually now able to dash twice in the air. So you're going to see that a lot of these screens have a lot less floor because the game expects you to utilize both these dashes. Scrublord taking a couple unfortunate dubs there.
Yeah, he was going for a more advanced strat there, an advanced jump dash off of the moving zipper. Unfortunately, not quite pulling it off the first 2 times. Summit can get pretty ridiculous with optimization.
Moose looks like he's going to have a 651-ish Chapter 6, which is pretty good. Honestly, anything sub 7 is fun for us mere mortals. If you haven't grinded Chapter 6, it's really hard to get like 630 and under. Yeah, you can see right here on Scrublord's screen, there's literally no floor.
Yep.
There's just like either you use the mechanic that the game isn't giving you or you die.
Scrublord also hyper dashing out of these dream blocks as well. Very nicely done because these dream blocks, so hypering out of dream blocks is a pretty tight window for it, and if you miss it on any of these screens, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah,
so it can be pretty risky.
For hypers being down forward plus jump and dash, like if you miss the window, you essentially just air dash down forward, like towards the death boundary.
Yeah. And it looks pretty funny, but it is unfortunate for runners to undergo. Madeline just goes wee, like dashes down to her death. Nicely navigated room there by Scrublord.
It's one of my favorite screens in Summon right there.
Oh, he missed the platform, but saved it. Very nicely done.
That's how you can tell the people that have played this game way too much. when they're able to have backup
Like who?
strat on top of backup strat.
Like who? Like who, Ben?
I don't know. Like Scrublord, it's a pretty good runner.
I'm personally offended by that. So you see, this room here can be a pain on the death cycle. So he was trying to leave the room and re-enter it to be on the entrance cycle again, but ultimately just decides to deal with the death cycle.
And I just want to point out again how impressive it is that Moose is, less than 2 summit checkpoints away from Scrublord. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
their PBs are like 2 minutes apart. Like Scrublord is the first C. Moose could be like whatever I'm supposed to lose, but he's racing it out right now. And he's, if he gets, I think it's like a 9:45 summit, he can PB. I don't know how likely that is for him, but he's I respect playing it out like not being like, oh, I'm gonna lose, and just racing your hardest, because he's been having some excellent sections.
Yeah, for sure. You might have missed it, by the way. Scrublord actually doing an auto-scroller skip of sorts in one of those rooms, the really long horizontal room. You can actually hyperdash or extended hyperdash off of the moving block and make it to the other side, and then wall bounce off of a tiny little piece of wall there to complete the skip.
I don't know if you saw, but I think Revo posted today corner boosting off of that first spike that you dash over.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. It's pretty stupid. And by pretty, I mean very stupid. That must save like 2 frames or something.
Okay, here we're entering the Mirror Temple section of Summit on Scrublord's side and finishing up the Resort section on Moose's side. Moose taking a couple of unfortunate deaths there, but cleans it up. Hopefully he can get this battle line screen done.
So Scrublord, they're performing something we call key skip. We didn't really mention, I don't think, anything about quote-unquote spike jumps. And I say quote-unquote because you're not actually jumping off of spikes, you're jumping off the wall behind the spikes. Basically, if you're moving in the same direction that spikes are pointing, you will never die. Basically because, and you'll see Scrublord doing door skip right now. Basically because that's just the way the hitboxes work for spikes. For that particular
because this game has great game devs is the real reason.
Yes,
and I love
them. In that particular case with key skip, Scrublord just finding a little piece of wall underneath the spikes and neutral wall bouncing off that. It's one of those skips that takes some time because it's a little bit unintuitive. But once you get it down, it's pretty simple to execute.
I call that one the TGH Classic.
Oh yeah, for sure. I did that like 3 times in the same screen yesterday.
Scrublord entering 3,000 meters. It's the top of the mountain. Mount Celeste is almost complete. There's these checkerpoint, you hear me? These checkered flags that are the checkpoints for the rest of the game. Since there won't be as many screen transitions, the game doesn't want to be too punishing. So Scrublord's going to be picking them up as he goes along in case he dies. He might skip a few of them, but for the most part, you have to land to get your dashes back anyway, so you just pick them up while you're going through.
Yeah, and as 3,000 meters is a almost strictly vertical section, you'll see both Scrublord and Moose, I would imagine, performing a lot of wall bounces in order to gain and keep vertical momentum as well.
Scrublord is in the updraft section here. The wind is pushing Madeline up, essentially reducing her gravity. I like to compare this section to like a Mega Man water level, because it's very similar in that you jump and you float, and the mechanics are based around it. And as such, I hate it because it's a water level.
Ooh. nice skip there by Scrublord. He actually skipped grabbing the wall or bouncing off the wall.
Isn't
there,
it
which
like,
is really
like
tight.
1 or 2 pixels to do that?
Yeah, I think it's. I think I heard Devil Squirrel say that it was frame perfect. I think you need to bounce off of a very specific pixel on the spring, like the rightmost pixel on the spring or something.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. That Scrublord is showing that off.
For sure.
Here we have Moose entering 3,000 meters. It's actually his enter time is actually only like less than 10 seconds behind Scrublord's enter time. So as far as like comparing their summits go, his summit has been just like on pace with Scrublord's here. Scrublord on the last screen of the game here, activating flag 4. Has to do a couple of feather sequences here. One for flag 3, one for flag 2.
I think we may have lost Moose. Our apologies for that. We'll work on getting that back as soon as we can.
And
Very
there's
nicely
flag
executed
1.
flag 1 there, or flag 2 there for Scrublord.
And I think, yeah, this is a PB, I'm pretty sure.
I don't want a commentator's curse, but it looks like...
I think even if he
There
died
it
here, he
is.
would still PB.
Probably. GG to Scrublord PBing by about 13 seconds, I believe that is.
Yeah, according to SRC.
There we go, we got Moose back.
But yeah, GG against the Scrublord. Gonna get the win on his group here, Group Mixmaster. I love that group name.
Yep, another run for Sex Tracks to verify. Not like, you know, I watched the run live or anything, but, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like if
Not
one
like I
of
can
the
verify this
SRC
either.
mods
Yeah.
had watched the run live, then it would be easier for Sex Tracks and Ball Jared, but since none of the SRC mods actually watched the run yet. We do have Scrublord in the chat.
Yeah,
Congrats
GG Scrublord,
again.
if you're listening. That was a very solid run. Nice job, dude. Here we have Moose approaching the end here.
Also on PB pace, I'm pretty sure. I believe his PB on SRC is at 34.51. So unless he's submitted something else recently, he will PB by as much as Scrublord PB'd, essentially keeping their PBs the same amount of time apart.
You know, it's really cool because we've seen a lot of PBs so far this tournament. But with two top caliber runners like Scrublord and Moose SR, you just don't expect to see two PBs in a race. Although Moose SR's timer is actually red, so I'm not sure if that was actually a PB for him. So we'll have to ask about that actually.
He could be comparing to some of best. That could be why the timer is red. It might not necessarily be comparing to his PB.
Maybe. And look at the death count, pretty much even for both runners, 24 and 25. Again, 2 of those are intentional though, so 22 for Scrublord and 23 for Moose SR. Very respectable death counts for a race as well.
If either of the runners wants to hop in to the Discord, we have about 5-ish minutes before they move on to starting up the next race.
Yep.
So if not, you know, GG's again and congrats again. Hopefully Moose stops by and lets us know if indeed that was a PB or not. Anyway, how'd you like the race? I thought it was cool.
I thought it was really good. I thought it was really good. Really good race between really good runners. It's always fun to watch two, again, top caliber runners going at it and showing their stuff for sure.
Scrublord being a jerk, his PB was only 9 seconds ahead of me, so I only needed to PB by 10 seconds to beat him. And he's like, no. You have to work a little bit harder than that, buddy. I'm going to be the second best American on this leaderboard. And the best one that is not a robot, because TGH isn't human.
I mean, first you're going to say I play the game way too much, and then you're going to call me a robot. Pretty offensive, man.
Okay, well, Scrublord says he's not coming in. I don't know where Moose is, so GG's again to both the runners. TGH, I believe you're commentating the next race as well?
I am. Yeah, you guys are stuck with me for the next race as well. So I apologize in advance.
Oh, there's Moose. Yo, what's up, Moose? GG.
Yo.
Hey.
Yo, GG, dude.
Thank you.
So we were wondering,
the age-old question: PB or not PB?
Not PB. Sorry about that. Missed it by 7 seconds.
Oh, sorry
Okay.
about that, man.
But it was still a really good run. I'm really happy.
Yeah, we
with
were hyped because we saw on SRC that your PB that we thought this was a PB because of your SRC time, but apparently
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not updated yet. Sorry.
Nice.
you could have just said it was PB and fooled everyone,
I could.
you know, for the speed gaming crowd. But
Some of
Might be
us
easier.
have integrity. GH, thank you very much. Anyway, how'd you
My
feel about the
PBs.
run, Moose?
I'm actually really happy with the run. Like in general, I had 2 gold splits, and my summit was decent. But I'm really kind of upset about the missteps in Temple and Reflection. Could have been so much better. But that's how it
Yeah,
goes.
you guys were obviously neck and neck at the beginning. That one
Yeah.
death in battle line like put you behind about like 10-ish seconds,
Yeah.
but you were able to maintain like pretty good pace. Scrublord had an insane chapter 4 because he was the IL holder not even that long ago, so he had like a
Yeah.
249 or something.
yeah,
Oh wow.
So yeah, he started like taking the lead there, and then I think he only had maybe like 1 or 2 hiccups, and Merit Temple wound up with like a 450 something. So he was just playing insane.
Yeah.
So
I really didn't expect to win this race, but it was still a good run.
you put forth a pretty good showing, regardless. So
Thank you.
GG's for that, man.
GG's.
yeah, we tried to kind of keep pointing out that even though like Scrublord was winning, it was because he was beasting, not because you were playing bad. You were playing really well throughout most of the levels and like not dying and getting all your strats. So yeah, GG's again, dude. It was fun to watch.
Thank you. He obviously has a way better PB than I do, so that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, it had to be one of those things where he has a bad run and you have a really good run.
Yeah,
for
he
you.
would have to have a terrible run.
But yeah, I mean, top 4 still make it out. You're on pace to be the 2nd seed coming out of your group. I believe you're 3-1 now.
I am 4-0. Oh, 3-1.
You didn't win this game, friend.
Yeah.
But
Whoops.
yeah.
3-1.
So
Yeah.
just
But,
I believe that's 3 more races to get. No, you might only have some people in your
one
group. 2 or
guy in my
3.
group actually dropped out.
Yeah, so 2 more
Um,
races, and
2
then
more races.
yeah, hopefully you win those 2, and then you move on, and
Hopefully.
hopefully we see you in the bracket stage.
Yep.
So I'm gonna give you a chance to say any final words, Moose. I'm gonna go ahead and bow out because they're gonna get set up for another stream here in just a second.
Right.
So thanks guys for watching. Make sure you follow the runners, follow the commentators, follow all of the Speed Gaming channels because Speed Gaming does excellent work to bring this broadcast to you guys. And I will see you guys later.
Bye, Ben.
Bye, Ben. Don't really have much more
Not-
to say, but Thank you all for watching.
Thank you for racing.
Thank you guys for commentating.
Yeah, that was fun to watch. Yeah, no problem. Well, coming up pretty soon on Speed Gaming, within the next 5 or 10 minutes or so, we have. Let's see what this schedule is really quick. You guys are stuck with me, by the way, for the next like 2 hours. Give me 1 second, just to pull up the schedule and see who these two racers are. We have up next, we have Star Cruncher and Sonic 33 Blaster coming up at 6 p.m. So stay tuned for that. I'm TGH alongside Ben TZ, who just left actually, and I'll see you guys in a couple minutes. Stay tuned.